And feel free to keep your video on. That's up to you. I know there will be people on the call that you may want to correspond with in the chat. Feel free to do that as well. My name is Jeff Hutchison. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Public Policy for TESOL International Association. With everything going on at the U.S. federal level, especially the fast-moving pace of everything, we thought it best to give a quick update on how things are going right now and some of the activities that we are working on at TESOL International Association, both as the organization with our membership, but also with the coalition partners, many organizations that we work with in this space in support of the English language teaching profession, and especially the multilingual learners of English whom we serve. So let me go ahead and jump right in this. And so everyone, there we go. All right, and okay. I prefaced just a minute ago before I started recording, so I guess I need to say this again. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that what we are presenting today is as accurate as can be in what we understand and how we understand what is happening on the Hill with federal policy and actions impacting the English language teaching field and multilingual learners of English. Tomorrow may be a different story, but for right now, this is what we are working with. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. So we're going to give a quick overview. We're going to talk about four big items. This originally intended to talk just about this first one, fiscal year 25, and the allocations, or I'd say non-allocations that are occurring with and in and around education funding for fiscal year 25. I know a lot of programs, a lot of states were anticipating a level funding starting by July 1st of this year, their fiscal year. That was postponed, at least indefinitely, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. And I also wanted to touch upon fiscal year 26 and the appropriations process that is underway right now as we speak, and the advocacy efforts that need to be done in this area and why we need to do those advocacy areas. Then there are a couple of things happened this week just we want to touch upon, just so that you are aware of. One is guidance that came out, I believe it was on Tuesday, from the Department of Justice. The Attorney General Bondi put this out on guidance relative to the executive order back March, I believe it was March 1st, on English only, impacting the government's work in language access plans. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll touch briefly upon the decision on Monday by the Supreme Court on an injunction that was challenged out of Boston, which allowed the Trump administration to continue forth in its layoffs. And then we will cover a few things that we're doing on advocacy. I'll share with you some of these things so that you too can incorporate these, hopefully incorporate them into your advocacy. And I always preface, if there are things that you're doing that you think we should be aware of, things that even if you don't even know if we could be aware of it or benefit from, please share it. At this time and the challenges that we face, the strength of our collective efforts is really appreciated. We work with as many organizations as possible. We work with our membership. We work with our fellow advocates in this area, and there are some things that we miss along the way, and sometimes there are opportunities that may go by us and we don't see them. So we want to make sure that we're at least amplifying what is out there for everyone to take part in with when it comes to the federal government and what is supporting. So we're going to first talk about appropriations. For those of you who don't know, the appropriations process in the federal government is not quite a year-long process. Usually sometime in the spring, February to March, the president will issue a proposed budget. And then from that time on, the Senate and the House of Representatives will work on their own versions. Sometimes they will follow lockstep. Sometimes usually they will either support or counter or oppose some of the president's proposals. There are 12 subcommittees that work through the appropriations process. And when it comes to education, we're focused on that which is housed in labor HHS education. It's labor, health, human services, and related agencies and education. That is where adult education, as well as pre-K through 12, higher education, all the federal funding appropriations happens in those two subcommittees, both the Senate and the House. Now, in an ideal world, the president puts out a budget. It's glorious. The Senate and the representatives, duly elected by their constituents, think it's glorious. Everybody agrees. And then on or before September 30th of the year, a signature is put on it. It becomes law for the fiscal year of the United States. And with education funding, for the most part, it is forward funding. So the process for fiscal year 25 in the government started October 1 of 2024, which meant by July 1st of 2025, the states would have received the allocated money for the appropriate educational purposes. That did not happen this year. And we'll get into that in just a little bit, and we'll talk about some of those challenges. One of the key things is that the president has been very vocal in doing away with the U.S. Department of Education and returning, in his words, returning education to the states. A lot of this really is centered upon funding and how funding, or what is being funded by the federal government. And as you can see, just a quick overview, the federal government has not kept up when you look at inflation or need, not or need, but and need, has not kept up with where we really should be. You can look here and see the green. If we kept up with inflation and need, we'd be close to 100, 98.5 billion there. But we are down right now with the proposal from the president at 66.7. So that's even a reduction over the past 2 years. From what the president has proposed. Now, to give you a little bit more context of how that looks across the different sectors, elementary and secondary education, for the most part, has been the only one that has seen, or at least witnessed, received some increase in their appropriations through the years. Way down at the bottom, you have a career and adult education. It's almost a flat line, which I think is an apt metaphor for what we're facing both now and in fiscal year 26, the appropriations discussion. So that kind of gives you a little backdrop of what the federal government or how much the federal government is funding here when it comes to education overall. And I don't have the slide. Oh yeah, I do have the slides. Let me go to that next one here. A little further context. What does it mean to the state and local? I don't have this for adult ed, but I do have it drilled down for public education, elementary and secondary education. You can look over the years. There's been varying degrees of the percentage in which the federal government has supported education across all states. And you can see, I think the highest one time was about 13%. So we're generally around 10 or 11% of what the federal government supports. The rest is made up from state and local funds. So you may look at that and say we're only talking about 10%, but when in real terms, that 10% is a substantial amount when it comes to public education. I don't have it for this resource, but send me an email. I'll be happy to supply it to you. But there's a great resource that shows about how that federal funding is realized in a per pupil amount. And the highest, I think there was one state, Alaska, if I remember correctly, was about 23% of all the money spent per pupil came from the federal government. So you might look at this overall and say 10% it's a small but not an insignificant amount, but it has a definite impact there. Now, what we're looking at and why we bring up FY25, you say, Jeff, this should have already been taken care of. Well, in an ideal world, yes, FY25 should be fine. But that is not, we're not in the ideal world right now. We are seeing, well, I'll start with adult ed. Adult ed for English learners, it's one on the bottom, Adult Education Family Literacy Act. States actually received communication at the end of May that they would be receiving their allocations for the state grants. Then at the end of June 30th, just a couple of weeks ago now, all of that was communicated as being withheld. So you can imagine if you were a state director looking at your programs, perhaps you've even communicated budgets out, and now all of a sudden you are without that money. You've made a budget, you're going forward, and then that money is not there and not available. I had opportunity to speak personally with a program director here in my community, and we went to our representative, and she was able to communicate to our representative that the following week she started furloughing her personnel and stopped offering services to about half of the students that she was serving. That was just here and alone in our district. That story alone prompted our representative to make an inquiry to the Office of Management and Budget. And that was significant because our representative is a Republican. The largest chunks, though, are in those other, the Every Student Succeeds Act, public education. You can see Title I-C, migrant education, Title II-A, supporting effective instruction, and Title III-A, which is a substantial one here for our community public education sector, is English language acquisition. All of that money, not parts of it, but all that have been appropriated for fiscal year 25 are currently being withheld. The official communication on that is that they are being reviewed. Some of the context is in line with some of the president's initiatives on diversity, equity, inclusion, as well as concerns around, well, not so much Every Student Succeeds Act, but the Adult Education and Family Literacy Act on support of those that are undocumented in the United States. So that's what we're facing right now. It's a substantial impact, and it's a blow really to our schools. I know that NABE, National Association of Bilingual Educators, or Bilingual Education, had I believe it was about 2 weeks ago, had a webinar. Perhaps you can go to the site and get that. Had some real world stories from the states about the impact direct in public education. So I think I'd be worth your while to go spend some time and review that piece. And if you would like to look a little closer into this, what does it mean for you? What does it mean for your state? Here are some resources that you can drill down and look locally. The one on, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can put this in the chat for everybody. Sometimes those QR codes are not the best. There we go. Got that in the chat for everyone. But these are from the New America and Ed Week, some great little resources that they have put together in there. That first one, the first one there is from Ed Week, and it gives you an overview on the education funding being withheld. Now, I did not mention this, but there are a couple of other programs under Title IV. Title IV A and B that are also being withheld. I'm speaking directly to those that are impacting primarily the English language teaching community and English learners, but that is not to diminish at all the impact of the Title IV programs. Those are substantial in and of themselves. So you can look at the state and what it means across the board in terms of revenue not being allocated in a timely manner. And I say not being allocated, they were already appropriated, should have been appropriated, should have been allocated from that appropriations based upon the March fiscal year continuing resolution. That, as we're well aware, has not happened. The second one, if you're doing advocacy work and you're talking to your representative, you can actually drill down and look at what is the impact on some of these programs in your congressional district. That one is, I believe that the source is from New America. Yeah, I believe that source is New America. And then if you go to the right, you can look at the actual school districts. And that one, again, is from Ed Week. You have, I think, pretty much every school district in the United States across those 6 or 7 programs, and you can look at the impact when it comes to revenue. Now, why do I share this with you? Because, well, when we get to the last part, we're going to talk about some of the advocacy efforts, and these are things that are key pieces when you are taking the case, not just within your community, but also taking the case up on the Hill in Washington, D.C., to advocate for and demand that these monies be allocated as they should be. Now, one thing that I didn't point out, and I think will be quite evident in this next one. Let's get over to this slide here. There is opposition in the up on the Hill to this. uh, to this withholding or non-allocation, if you will. And you'll notice, I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but I will share the links in just a second in the chat so you can actually look at these letters themselves. But um, the inquiry, if you will, to be polite, should go to the Office of Management and Budget. The memo that came out a couple of weeks ago from US Ed, from the Education Department, saying that we are going to withhold this money, essentially said, don't call us, talk to OMB. They're the ones that are driving the bus, if you will, if I may use that metaphor. Earlier in the week, matter of fact, I think it was actually, excuse me, at the end of last week, we were very encouraged that Senate Democrats, 34 of them, on the Senate side, put a letter together, and then 150 representatives, Democrats, put a letter together of the same, just to that effect, to Russell Vought at OMB, as well as Secretary McMahon. Then yesterday, was it yesterday? I think everything runs together anymore. My apologies. I think it was yesterday. It could have been Tuesday, but 10 Republican senators followed suit. And let me put these in the chat so you have access to all of these. Give me just a second. I'll fill the chat up here. There we go. So you can access those directly. I've loaded those up just so that we have those in memoriam. And you can see some of the difference in language that is being used for that, for those letters. The Democrats called it illegal, were quite frankly and quite justifiably so angry in tone about what is happening with the withholding of this money. The Republican side took a little different tact, but did find some of their challenges to this, their cause to this, as showing that it was not in line with the president's own strategic initiatives to return education to the states. And I should put that in quotes, showing that they're taking away the ability of the states and local education agencies to make the decisions that are best for them. So I would encourage you, take some time, look at those, see what is being said. If your senator or representative is a signatory on one of those letters, send them a thank you note. I think that is something that, right now, for them to hear a thank you in this process, they hear both sides. They hear both sides. And so not just coming with our complaints, please do this, please do that, but saying thank you for their efforts. So I would encourage you to also do that, especially if your senator is one of the Republicans that signed that. In the backdrop, we're also hopeful that perhaps Republican representatives could get together and send a similar letter. It is finding finding that individual that is willing, or individuals, I should say in this case, that are willing to step out on that. In addition, there was a lawsuit filed, I believe it was just Monday, or might have come out Tuesday, by 24 states. I thought I had that link in there. I will go back. Oh no, here it is. I do have that link. Here's a link to the lawsuit. And I have all of the states that were in that lawsuit, put those in the chat as well. The unfortunate part, all of those states are led by Republican governors. Excuse me, Democrat governors, not Republican. If they were Republican, that'd be great. We need some red states to take some action. I know there has been some talk about Ohio, a couple of others that perhaps may start moving in that direction. We haven't seen it yet, but hopeful there. I'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment, and some of the advocacy efforts that we're doing, and just why we're doing that and what we are doing, and how you can come alongside and help there. Okay, so that's fiscal year 25. Now, I will say a word here. This right here is just prognostication, if you will, guessing as to what some of the strategies may be, or what some of the talk has been. That it will go to not allocating this money by the end of the fiscal year. If the states are not rising up and saying, hey, we need this money, then they could turn around and say, well, nobody called for it, nobody asked it, you didn't need it. Well, that's not the case. States are rising up, as evidenced by the lawsuit. But if they don't allocate this, does it become an illegal impoundment? Does it become a targeted rescission? What exactly that may mean in the legal side of it. I did not sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, so I'm not sure that I would be able to answer that to the full extent. But I do know it presents a lot of legal questions as to whether or not that is appropriate. That is, well, not appropriate. That's too nice of a word. I'll just leave it at that, though. But whether or not that is legal in that process, and that is why that lawsuit had to be filed, so that a ruling hopefully will be in favor of the release and allocation of those monies for fiscal year 25. Worst case scenario, if it is found to be above board. And Melissa, if you want to reach out to me a little later, I got a little bit more insight on the adult ed side, some concerns there that maybe speaks to what a program year actually is. It may have given the administration a little bit more leeway. But worst case scenario, if it is found to be appropriate or not appropriate, but is found to be it's not violating any law, or at least has been a decision is rendered it as such. The administration, if we go into a continuing resolution for fiscal year 26, could say we didn't fund in 25, so therefore we're not obligated to fund in 26. Now, whether that's the tactic, I don't know. All I do know is that we have work ahead of us right now, and we need to make sure that our voices are heard on the Hill. Our voices are heard, not just our voices, but going out into our communities, families, and making sure that we're communicating that through the local schools, the organizations that are supporting that. I'll show you at the end of this one of the coalition letters that we signed on with. It has over 600 organizations, national and regional, that are again aligned for the release and allocation of this money. So that might be something you could pour over yourself and say, hey, where are my allies in this locally? And you might find some locally you can help reach out and get together with for that. So some of the opposition that has come out there, and I did relay that my Republican representative did make an inquiry to OMB. He unfortunately did not get a bunch of his colleagues together and write a letter. I'll try to see if we can get that as a next step for him. We'll see if that would materialize. That would be wonderful if that happened. And so now we move to fiscal year 26. While we are tasked and really honed in and focused on fiscal year 25 and the allocations that are not happening, we also have to be ready and realize that we also face an uphill battle for 2026. Those discussions will be happening probably this month. The House, let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. For those, just to give a little background, I mentioned earlier about the 12 subcommittees. The subcommittee that we're focused on here is Labor, Health, Human Services, Education, and Related Agencies. Both the House and the Senate have these subcommittees, and they will be working on their markups. For the past 2 years, the House LHHSE has sought to eliminate Title III. This year, they have the backing of the president's proposal in that. So the challenge before us is much greater than it was in the previous 2 fiscal years appropriation cycles. So what's at stake over the next month, maybe 2 months, we'll see. Title IIA has been rolled into Title I formula grants. You may have seen in the news that, Trump is level funding Title I. Well, that's not entirely accurate. If you get rid of and eliminate Title IIA and roll it into the overall Title I, you are basically depleting the amount of funds that can be used in Title I. So it's a double whammy, if you will, and what will happen there. Title III is eliminated. Title II again is the Title II, Title III. These first 3 are all the Elementary and Secondary Education Act for public education. So Title III eliminated and Title I-C eliminated. And just to give you some background on that, I'll go back just a minute. How much are we talking about? Title I-C was $375 million. Title II-A, $2.2 billion. Title III-A, $890 million. If we kept up with inflation and need, we would be closer to $2 billion just on Title III alone. So that kind of tells you how needed these funds are to supplement the work of the states and local education agencies. Move back ahead here. Others that are also slated for elimination, again, Title II of the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, which is the Adult Education and Family Literacy Act, is slated for elimination as well. Also, Title II of the Higher Education Act, the Teacher Quality Partnerships are slated to be eliminated. Now, this bottom one is not education. This is in State Department, but it is one that is near and dear to us, TESOL, because we do a lot of work overseas. We do a lot of work with educators who are going overseas, and a lot of this is funded through EC, the Education Cultural Exchanges. The president proposed I think the fiscal year 25 was 740 million, and the president was proposing cutting that to 691 million. So in other words, leaving about 49 million dollars for that budget. That would have been a huge cut, not just to educators, but also just the fact of the education and cultural exchange and the diplomacy that takes place through that. Fortunately, I believe it was just this week, the subcommittee that works on the State Department budget is their markup, if I remember correctly, only cut. And this is the world we live in when we say only cut is a win. Only cut education cultural exchanges by 40 million. And it kept Fulbright level funded. So that fortunately was something that the president's budget, at least the House side, has not moved forward with the proposed cuts from the president. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what we're up against when it comes to appropriations at the federal level. Again, I will keep you updated as soon as the House is going through those marks up. We'll set out a campaign and say, hey, contact the subcommittee if you are in one of those members. Districts will make sure that you get a special outreach to them, and as well as a full committee on appropriation. We'll do the same when it comes up in the Senate. Now, fortunately, the Senate tends to be a little more sane in these. So there is this is not a case where we see no light at the end of the tunnel. We absolutely do, because the Senate, as you can tell, the Senate has put forth its opposition letter to the current fiscal year 25 withholding. So we have a much more receptive audience on the Senate side, but TESOL will keep you updated on everything going there. Yes, and Byron asks, the goal of the Dear Colleague letters and collective lawsuit is to persuade the Fed to release those money already appropriated by Congress. That is correct. The Feds are not releasing it. The goal of reaching out to OMB, both by the Dear Colleague letters and the lawsuit, is to make that happen. So that's what those are for. Now, a couple of others I just want to touch upon very quickly. Executive Order 14224 back in March established, or at least was a directive at the federal level, that English is the official language of the United States. What it also did was rescind language access. There was an Executive Order 13166 from 2000, Clinton era, that directed federal agencies to work on language access plans for the public. In other words, to really facilitate those whose language is not English, who speak another language or who have that as their home language, so that they could access public services. This was a clear support of Title of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. National origin discrimination. The guidance that came out this week essentially rescinds that. In matter of fact, in the guidance, it says that lep.gov, which that is the Department of Justice limited English proficiency area that all of the language access plans are coordinated and guidance is delivered. The guidance that came out of the Attorney General's office this week told all of those operations, basically, you're suspended for right now. I put in the chat a statement that we made when that executive order came out back in March, as well as the guidance that you can read there. And then I took out some of the highlights here. The guidance issued July 15th, which was just 2 days ago, rescinded prior LEP guidance. regarding Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and it also called the agencies to consider English-only services and to redirect funds towards English education. I personally find incongruity in that last statement when we are, just as we pointed out in fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26, faced with defunding and elimination of a lot of these services that are designed specifically for support of English education. Matter of fact, the best that I can look at, the guidance is, oh, all that money that we use on translation services, it can go into research and pedagogy. Well, that at best guess, maybe $500 million a year is spent in that area across all the different agencies. I looked up earlier today, if you Google language access plans from lep.gov, you can still access those. So those still at least appear for the most part available. They may have been taken down by now. I don't know. But at least as of this morning when I checked, they were still there. What this means, really we'll see some of the fallout as it goes forward, but on its face, you're going to have a loss of access to public services, health care, law enforcement, access to understand even the processes of becoming a citizen, of maintaining your status. All of this is essentially by this guidance in effect put aside, and perhaps we'll see maybe even thrown out the window. And when it comes to the parents and guardians of those in public education, they rely on having access to school information in a language they understand. What we are doing by this, in my sight, in my view, my perspective, is that we are denying these families the opportunity and the right to make the choices that's best for their children. That's what this guidance does. It's taking everything that the administration is about in parent choice, family choice, and saying, well, it's choice for you, or choice for thee, but not for me, or choice for me, not for thee, however that saying goes. So it is something that we're going to be looking at. There's a 60-day period in which recommendations are going to be made in that process. I know that there is a coalition on language access that is challenging this. TESOL is coming alongside and where we can in support of that as well. Matter of fact, one of the things that we're doing right now this week, hope to have out at the beginning of next week, is a statement really on all of these, the fiscal year, the funding issues, as well as the guidance, especially this guidance. We're going to focus on that. And then a little bit on this next slide here, because this is the last thing that most recently has come up. SCOTUS in a decision on the 14th, I believe that was Monday. Yeah, that was Monday. Essentially said that the preliminary injunction on the March layoffs impacting, I believe, 1,500 employees of the U.S. Department of Education, basically, it set aside the injunction and the layoffs could continue. So essentially, those 1,400 employees are gone. They were, for the most part, they were gone already, but there was some glimmer of hope in this lawsuit that was brought forth out of the Boston, New England area, but that was put to rest. And some of the quotes from Secretary McMahon as well as President Trump indicate that they see this as basically their go order to completely shut down the department. Everything that I understand, to shut down and completely get rid of the department requires a 60-vote majority in the Senate. So I don't go as far as to say that this order allowing the layoffs to continue means that the Department of Ed is done for. But it's another nail in that proverbial coffin, if you will. So those are some of the things that are going on at the federal level. Now, I'll briefly, before I talk about TESOL advocacy, I want to talk about what it means for the English language teaching field, for the learners we served from an advocacy perspective. While we continue to advocate, we continue to come together on a lot of these issues at the federal level. The state level advocacy really needs to step up. especially when it comes to the protection and services that are delivered to English language learners. I heard reports there was Texas was holding this week a Title III conference. And the report out of that was that Texas was prepared to come in and backfill some of this money. So it wasn't all gloom and doom in Texas. I'm hearing from other states, Oklahoma, for example, their superintendent said, well, if the U.S. government is not allocating money for it, don't put it in your budget. So every state's going to be a little different in how they approach this. So state level advocacy becomes increasingly more important, especially when it comes to supporting educators, supporting learners, supporting families, supporting your communities. So I'll just briefly touch on some of the things that that we're doing at TESOL. One of the key things that I'm really embraced in right now is targeting key members of Congress. We're looking right now at the Republican majority on the LHSE. I'll get my acronym out right. Just today, just this week, we had outreach to Clyde in Georgia, outreach to Bice in Oklahoma, and I just got off a call before this one working with a contingent in Michigan. Under Michigan TESOL, they're going to be reaching out to Moolenaar to see if there can be any pushback from these Republicans to what is going on. And there, if you happen to be in any of these districts, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. I haven't kept up. I was able to talk to a group working with Mike Simpson in Idaho, but they are Melissa. That may be someone I'd be happy to connect you with there because they're focused more on the adult ed side. But happy to connect there. But if we could get any of these Republicans to influence Outerholt, who's the chair, that would be a huge win. And Outerholt needs to hear it from his colleagues. Simpson, if everyone is from Idaho here, Simpson did push back in a hearing with McMahon on TRIO grants. So maybe there's room that he'd be willing to push back on some of these other cuts that are being proposed. So if you would like to take part, just send in your own message. I know many of you have. I do have in there a QR code for key members, and let me put the link in the chat in case the QR code is not as helpful or as cooperative there. We're also working on joint statements. We work very closely with a loose coalition of organizations called the National English Learner Roundtable, focused on public education. We put one out, did a joint one to what is called the Four Corners. Four Corners are the chair and ranking members in the Senate and the House for the respective committees. And we were focusing on not just the appropriations subcommittees, but the appropriations full committee, as well as the authorization committees. So health, education, labor, and pensions, and the ed and workforce committees. Those are the authorization committees. You can read that letter here. We had several members of that coalition that were able to sign their names to that. And then just this week, I believe it was just this week, the same coalition was able to put out a press release. Feel free to share this with your contacts. Here's a link to the press release. And then lastly, excuse me, we do have our general call to actions. I'll put that link in there as well. And I just came across, I'll see if I can, I will send this out when I email to the registrant, but we just, let me look on my phone if I can remember. I think there were 600 organizations as part of this that put a letter out to OMB here. Yes, and it was from the one that was heading up was Allied for Progress. But 600 organizations, not just national ones, but regional as well. I'll send you a link to that. I just got that this afternoon, and my apologies, didn't have time to incorporate it into this slide. But I want you to have that so that you can share that, especially in your advocacy efforts, looking around for allies, other organizations aligned with you that you could, reach out. Maybe they're doing something that you could join, or maybe nothing is happening, and you would like to get them together and have a bigger coalition. That's what we were doing at the Michigan TESOL. We were able to have adult ed, higher ed, as well as K through 12, right out of Moolenaar's district, District 2 of Michigan. So encourage you in that for your own. So just want to let you know that A lot is happening. It is moving fast, and we are doing our best to keep up. We are making sure that you keep informed about what's happening. We are where appropriate, we are making sure that we are giving you the opportunity for your grown grassroots advocacy. And I am more than willing, if anyone would like to talk this through and say, hey, I'd like to do something in my particular area. I don't know how to start. Give me a call. We'll set up and we'll talk about it. TESOL is going to continue to work with our colleague associations. We cannot do this alone. So we work across several organizations and associations in adult ed, in higher ed, and pre-K through 12 public education, all in support of English language teaching and multilingual learners of English. So with that, I will again say thank you to everyone. Thank you for your time this afternoon. I hope this was informative. We will put this up on our site. I realized that this was one of those that we said we need to get some information out there. So it was a very short turnaround in the announcement and the delivery. We apologize on that, but things are moving fast and we wanted to make sure that you were updated. And I did this live because I wanted to make sure if there were any questions that we could address this. We did go back and forth and said, I could have recorded this and then put it up on the website and said, hey, here it is. But I thought if there was anyone with a question they'd like to ask or anything like to contribute, please let me know. Lily, thank you. I know Lily, if I remember right, you're Title III funded in your position in Virginia. If you keep me updated on what's going on. I was talking with Virginia TESOL the other day. Would love to hear some more if there's anything that we can do to help come alongside. I sent out to the president of Virginia TESOL a bunch of information similar to what we were talking about here, focused on fiscal year 25. Okay. So anyone else, feel free. I will make sure, I realize I don't have this in here. This is my direct email, but you will receive a recording of this from me. So you'll have my information and feel free to contact at any time. So I had intended to keep this at 30 minutes. We went 45. It's not too bad with that. So wherever you may be, if you're on the East Coast, have a good rest of the afternoon. If you're on Central Time, it's time to go home. And well, sorry about you if you're in Mountain Time or Pacific Time. You still got a lot of the day left. But keep up the good work, keep up advocating, and continue to serve in the areas you're serving. Thank you all.